Hey, I'm Bailey.
I'm Michael.
And I'm David.
And welcome back to the Facing the Gates podcast. This week on the podcast, we went to an Orthodox church.
Russian Orthodox.
A Russian Orthodox church. Rokor for the win. Anyway, that stands for the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. In case anybody cares, that's what kind of church we went to. So, last week you heard our interview with Father Mark, which for us was yesterday, and still processing all the knowledge he dropped. Lots of solid spiritual wisdom on top of just philosophically sound and intellectually grounded stuff. So definitely one of my favorite interviews. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite interviews too. Seriously, go check all the interviews.
And he also
out.
just has a really nice voice.
Seriously, and just such a, like, talking to him, he's just such a humble, intelligent man. And
from his body language and mannerisms, you can tell like he cares, and he's not. It never felt like you were wasting his time. You know, it just felt like, you know, he was ready to answer your questions and wasn't in a rush or anything. So.
And didn't mind elaborating, because at first he was worried he might explain too long, and then it's like, no, please, more.
Yeah. So that was good. So that's definitely going to be probably the majority of what you're going to be able to get from Orthodoxy, at least from this podcast, is largely from that interview, because we went to the Liturgy today and we are still processing it, but wanted to kind of talk about our thoughts at the very least.
It's definitely a very different experience, and it's definitely, if you're someone trying to find your denomination or your religion, it's definitely something to go to and experience, because it's unlike, especially if you live in the Bible Belt, something unlike any other church you can go to.
Yeah.
Like, it's even more foreign than, say, the Catholic Church.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll probably just go ahead and start with walking in the building, kind of architecture review. So Orthodox churches are typically, they are built in the more traditional style, like it's a cross building, but this is a little bit of a smaller church. So it was kind of just an open room. They still called the sanctuary the nave, and they still had the altar and the area that's kind of supposed to be symbolic of the Holy of Holies. On the outside of the building, it's kind of a white walls with like a blue roof, and it's got like a blue spire on top of it. And when you walk in, there's just, the walls are laden with icons.
Yeah, it's
lots and lots of icons.
And then, like, on the bottom of the walls, it's very intricate line work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Father Mark mentioned that his wife did most of the icons. And, so, I mean, when you walk into an Orthodox church, it's a very, you have to, it's kind of like when we walked into the Catholic Church, the cathedral, where you kind of have to take a minute to absorb everything. Just because, I mean, the icons are all very beautiful. I mentioned yesterday to Father Mark, I was like, kind of feels like people are watching me.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you have all those eyes.
Even more so than the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Like it, and I guess the small quaintness of it really emphasizes that. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Catholic Church was very, very large and open.
Yeah.
Whereas this one really created a nice, intimate place of worship.
Yeah.
And it was definitely, even just walking in there was a total different experience than any of the other churches we've been to. Mm-hmm. And very, very beautiful, very serene, but
yeah, it's gonna we're gonna have a hard time kind of describing how it looked. If you guys are interested, you should just either visit an Orthodox church, which is what we would recommend, but also there's several Orthodox church tours like on YouTube and stuff that you can look up if you want to know like what an Orthodox church looks like.
And then I think you can even look this one up, and I want to say there is a live stream. And
yes, they have a live stream on their Facebook page.
And then I know looking online, you can kind of see somewhat of the inside.
You can see, at least from Google Maps, you can see like the outside. I don't think there's any pictures of the inside.
I thought there was. I could be wrong.
I didn't see any. But anyway, also when you walk in on the left, there's some candles. Typically, you can like buy candles to go light towards the front end of the room. There's candles that you can light, and I'm pretty certain that's supposed to be like symbolic of prayers for people. And it's also just a way to kind of give back to the church financially. And when you walked in, at least when we walked in, the room was fairly dimly lit. There was candles, some chanting going on in English. It was kind of like a monotone chant. And I don't have a bulletin, so I'm not going to be able to go through point by point and tell you exactly what happened. But it was about a 2-hour long service, roughly. Roughly. I guess technically depending on when you started, because at the beginning,
and depending on like confession and all of that stuff would probably change exactly when it starts. It's a very fluid thing.
Yeah,
I noticed.
So one thing that was different about this church compared to other services that we've been to was this is the first and only church that we've been to where you stand the entire time.
Yeah. So pew review. There are none.
No pew review because there was no pews.
There are a few like benches, I guess you could say.
Yeah, they have kind of wooden benches around the room, like towards the back and on the side, mainly for elderly people, but also during the sermon you're allowed to sit, but you're supposed to stand during the majority of the service, basically.
Yeah, there were a few times where like we were signaled to sit, and I didn't know why, but the lady next to you was explaining, and I was sitting there like, okay. And it's like...
Yeah, so that was one other thing is we definitely stood out like sore thumbs. So there was a couple ladies that were kind of instructing me a little bit, which, I mean, I didn't translate it to you guys because it was pretty, I think it was pretty much self-explanatory, but...
Yeah, and I was close enough to listen.
Yeah.
And also, Father Mark was very explanatory in the interview, so that really helped.
Yeah. When the service started, they were... when it formally started, I should say, they had brought the incense and brought it around the room, and everyone kind of got to the center of the room and faced the person with the incense. That probably means something symbolic that I'm just ignorant on. I don't know.
It seems like a blessing or cleansing type of thing. I could be wrong with that, but from an outsider's point of view, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Because even there were certain times where the incense would be brought out or like waved in front of like the altar, and similar to in the Catholic Church during the Eucharist, they would wave the incense. So I think that ties somewhere in there. I'll have to do a little research and get back to you guys on that.
Yeah. And they also had a choir, chanting choir, which was very good.
Seriously.
There was probably like 5 or 6 people up there chanting, singing.
Yeah, you had a baritone, a good tenor, some good altos. I want to say there was at least one soprano, and they were very poignant and on point.
Yeah, and basically the entire service is either sung or chanted. So they're doing you got the choir doing songs, and then there's certain parts that are kind of call and response where the rest of the congregation comes in.
Or just like Father Mark would say something, or the chanting in Russian would happen, and then something in English.
Yeah.
And it would be very much back and forth. But there was like no dead zone.
Yeah. There was no dead space, wasted time. It did flow very well. I looked at my watch at one time and I didn't realize like an hour had passed already. That's one of the things about liturgical services is the passage of time kind of just dissolves.
Yeah, like
you don't know time is passing.
Like I was standing there even near the end before the communion, and I was just like, I have no idea if I've been in here for 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, 6 hours. Time does not exist.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to have to apologize because our summary of the service isn't going to be 100% cogent because, you know, we don't have a bulletin to go by and say, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. And we're also still kind of parsing everything together. And
yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah.
Like, even if you are firm in your beliefs, like, let's say you're a firm Methodist or you're a firm Baptist or a firm atheist, I would say go and at least experience, because it really will give you an appreciation for Orthodoxy. Just like I'd say go experience a Catholic service, because you will really appreciate the history and the traditions that are carried through, because it's something that is totally foreign to a lot of people in America.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was foreign to us because, I mean, even having gone to a Catholic service, this one was quite
Very
different compared to that. But I think I'll definitely look back at this experience in general of going to all these different churches, and like it will be a very memorable time in my life where it's like, okay, I went to all these different types of churches so that and interviewed their pastors and all, and like now I know more than I did going in.
Yeah, and plus we could always look back and listen to the interviews and listen to our experience, and even if we stay where we're at, it's something to look back at and appreciate, because first being welcomed with such warm, open arms is a beautiful thing. And then going out of our way to have these experiences, which I think is something we as a country need to do more. And us as a whole nation need to do more.
Yeah.
Also, the incense were different than the Catholic ones.
Yes, they did. I don't know exactly what all they had in it, but I'm gonna go ahead and just say I like the Orthodox incense a little bit better, just because it smells better.
It's light, floral, and sweet at the same time. Every so often you would smell like one of the tiny little candles kind of go out, and you get that kind of burnt smell. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, something else. Okay, a candle one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a very clean smell too. Like even though it was incense, it had a very clean smell. I'm not going to say the Catholic or Orthodox one was better than the other, but I love incense, so I love them both.
They're both good, but I prefer the, like you said, it's kind of clean. I like that kind of fragrance.
And also, another thing, the chanting and singing in Russian was very beautiful, which a lot of people would think is absolutely crazy. But just the way it's brought forth, and you can tell they care and they actively practice orthodoxy, and they care about what they're putting forth.
Yeah. Homeboy can sing. They have one particular guy that was doing all the Russian, and he's got a big boy Russian voice on him.
Yes, but then he would swap over. I want to say he was a tenor, and he had a beautiful voice too.
Yeah.
Very jealous of that.
There was one part he had his like 2-year-old kid up there with him, and there was one part where his 2-year-old son wanted to sing along.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, it was funny because at first he was like, "Stop," and then he didn't stop, so he just let him sing. It was funny.
Yeah, there were a lot of kids there.
Yeah,
a lot of little kids.
Knocking stuff over and making racket, but nobody, none of the singers, the choir, the father, it didn't move him one bit. They were still very poignant in the liturgy, and that to me is very impressive. Because it's easy to get distracted by those things. Because one kid knocked over a table that was folded up in the back. Another was playing with like a purse or something.
Yeah.
And they were still hitting the mark.
Yeah. They also, one thing I forgot to mention, when the service started, they would go up and venerate the icons. So they had 3 different tables with different icons on them. Stands. Kind of like a podium type thing with icons on them, and people would make the sign of the cross and then kiss the icon. And one of the people there was kind of explaining to us that is the process of veneration, which is not the same as worship. It's not that they are worshiping the wood on paint. It's that they're kind of paying their respect to those people.
I want to say, was it Raphael? Is that the name? I can't remember the name, because I want to say thank you for coming up and greeting us.
There was a few of them. But I'm terrible with names, so I'm not gonna say was it Frank, Bill?
Yeah, but
I'm gonna just say I appreciate everyone who helped us and talked to us, because I don't remember most of their names.
Yeah, but
I'm terrible. I have to get people's names, like either I have to write it down or it takes me like several days to get somebody's name down.
Yeah, but it was a very quaint, humble experience all in all.
So most of the service was people going around venerating icons, the choir singing, chanting, and kind of a back and forth thing. And then I imagine they would be deacons coming around with the incense. And that was a majority of the service, and it flowed really well. And then towards the end was when actually the Russian baritone guy, whose name I don't know, but we're just going to call him the Russian baritone guy, and hopefully he doesn't get offended if he hears this. He came up, I think he gave a sermon in Russian, which was interesting because I don't know Russian, but it was still interesting. And after they gave the Eucharist, that was Orthodox Christians only would go and get in line. They had a chalice that they would, scoop the juice out, the grape juice, the wine. That's what it's gonna. It's grape juice, stronger grape juice. And I'm sorry, I'm not being formal enough. I forget. I hope they're not going to be mad because I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, they would serve the blood from the chalice, and then they would have you walk around and receive the body, which is the bread on the side. And then they also had some extra wine to kind of wash it down. And then there was a couple other things that happened. Everything kind of bleeds together, so I don't remember all the details.
Yeah, and then at the end,
Father Mark gave a sermon.
Yeah, and also walking up, kissing the cross, and then receiving more bread, which we had 2 different ladies come up and bring us some, because we were like, we'll just stand back and observe. Yeah. We want to be respectful.
Yeah, basically that was, I think if I understand correctly, that is it's still blessed, but it's not,
It's not the Eucharist.
Yeah, it's not the Eucharist, so.
Yeah. And also the blessings for birthdays, for travel.
Anniversaries.
And for the travel, they would dip the brush, which I want to say was made out of palm or something like that, into the water and then make the cross over their face.
Either that or he would use his hand and sprinkle a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of nuggets to break down in it, and so much symbolism and tradition. It's something, again, you need to just go and experience it. There's only so much we can put into words.
Yeah.
And we are doing our best to do it justice, but it's definitely one of those things you have to experience to really do it justice.
Yeah, so we're just going to be like, yeah, this happened, and then it was weird, and it was cool, but you should just go, because we're not going to be able to... Sorry, my phone keeps exploding.
It's not like going to a Baptist church. It's not like going to any Protestant church where we can kind of break down everything bit by bit. It's very traditional.
Well, the thing is, I've noticed with like the more liturgical churches that we've gone to, like the Anglican and the Catholic, it's taken a minute for us to kind of process it and break it down. So when we come and talk about it, we haven't really, we don't have our thoughts and words together. Yeah, it's not fully
digested.
Yeah, we haven't.
Whereas this one, we've sat in traffic for several hours.
Yeah, we, on the way back, got stuck in traffic for like an hour before we decided to turn around and go like 2 hours in the other direction before we finally got home, because somebody got in a wreck on the interstate, and
we still have not been able to...
sang 99 bottles of beer on the wall and didn't even move.
And I had a phone call in the middle of it.
And he had a phone call.
And we messed up several times.
And we got very... Yeah, today's been a long day. We'll say that much.
And we still haven't been able to properly digest this experience.
Yeah. And afterwards,
before we talk about the after the service, what did you think of it, being the filthy atheist?
It's an experience, as Michael has said. As with y'all, it's probably the most foreign service we've been to.
Yeah, and you weren't even there for the Catholic, so this has to be like from 0 to 100 for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, since everything had its place, you could still follow along bit by bit.
Yeah.
And though, kind of as he said yesterday, it takes 1 year to get the routine, 10 years to understand, and a lifetime to fully understand.
Yeah.
If I'm quoting him correctly. Hopefully I am. But because there's a lot of symbolism and meaning into the methods.
Yeah, the idea, because I asked him, he might have answered this at the very end of the podcast, but the idea was, how long does it take to become Orthodox? And he said roughly a year, but it takes a lifetime to fully understand everything, because there's just so much stuff. And he's mentioned that he's learning stuff, and he's been Orthodox for like 30 years or something.
Yeah, and there's so much history there to understand and appreciate. And I think that's a key thing, because with a lot of denominations, there's not that much history to get.
Yeah.
Where this has gone on for centuries.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth in everything. So, without going on and on and on forever, think we should just say you should go at least once. Just go to see what it's like.
Even if Christianity's not your cup of tea.
Yeah.
I would recommend going just to understand.
It's better for you, because I would just verbally explain like what happened and all, but like that's not going to do it justice. You just need to go.
Yeah, because we could go 100 times and there still be new things to us.
Yeah. So after the service, they had a meal. at the building next door. And so we were getting to meet a couple of the people that go there.
And we met a fellow traveler.
Mm-hmm.
I had some interesting conversations with him, and then also name.
My professor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just call her my professor.
Yeah.
And her husband, who shall go unnamed. We'll just unname both of them because I don't know if they want to be named.
We'll just say
Professor and Professor's husband.
Yeah, we'll
That
go
is
with
your name.
had some very interesting conversations, and
yeah, they kind of, her husband talked about like his walk because he grew up, well, he was Lutheran. I don't know if he grew up Lutheran, but he kind of talked about his journey from being Lutheran to eventually becoming Orthodox. And my professor had a good talk and interrogated David on being an atheist. So that was pretty neat.
And then explained.
And also talked about kind of one thing that she talked about and Pastor talked about was the kind of mystical kind of side and the supernatural side.
Yeah, because in and of itself, the religion is supernatural. It's something outside of our grasp.
Yeah.
You can't just reach out and grab God.
Yeah.
And I had very, very good conversations. Got recommended a book to look into.
Yep.
And then talked to Father Mark a little more and ate some good food.
Yeah.
Before we got on the road.
Got stuck.
And got a little upset.
Yeah. It was a little maddening because we literally stood still in traffic for an hour before I just decided to take a detour off the interstate, and we didn't even get onto the interstate. We were stuck on the exit. Yeah. And I looked at Google Maps and it's like backed up for like 3 exits. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. But I'm just going to go the other way.
It was still saying
people were
1 hour till your arrival.
Yeah, whatever.
People were stopping as we were going. We're like, what's going on?
Yeah. We lost our minds in traffic. So,
yeah. But all in all, a very positive experience.
Yeah.
Like as much as I'd hate to say it, I'd go through the traffic jam to have to redo this experience.
Nice.
And I hate traffic jams. And I hate riding in the back seat.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's much else to talk about, really.
I don't know either. I feel bad because like
there's a lot to say, but at the same time, we don't have words to say it. So I'm sorry if this is disappointing for anyone. But we're just going to defer you to the interview. It was a nice 2-hour-long interview for you. Go check that out. Also, in a couple episodes from now, we're going to talk about, we're going to kind of look back at all of the interviews and services we've been through and kind of talk about it all as a whole. And at the end of that, I'm going to leave a resource if anybody is interested to a couple of channels that do church tours and interviews if you want to have more of this, but basically better. Because, we do what we can. But
yeah, we're just 3 guys trying to find a way here.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. But I don't know if there's anything much else to talk about with this one. We're just going to defer you to the interview and say you should go.
Yeah.
Even if it's like an hour or 2 away, just go one time at the very least, just to go see what it's like.
Yeah, we drove an hour and some change away to go to this church. We drove 2.5 hours away to go to the Catholic church. We drove probably close to an hour, a little less than an hour to go to the Anglican.
Yeah.
You should broaden your horizons and experience these things. Yeah. Get out your little bubble.
Yeah, kids, get out of your bubble.
Even if you're an atheist, even if you're Baptist, whatever denomination or tradition you follow, whatever religion, experience these other things because they hold meaning and hold history too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just experience and create these discussions and this dialogue. so we can understand where each other's coming from better and why we believe the way we believe.
Right. That's
the whole point of this podcast.
The crux of the whole podcast is to get to the root of what you believe and why, and be able to understand it. What do you think, David? I know David's been quiet this whole time, but what are your final thoughts on the?
As usual, Michael kind of touched on it. It was worth the traffic and the travel to go experience it, and recommend that, as he said, go experience it. Get out your bubble. Don't be scared. It's a little scary.
It's a little scary.
You don't have to create a podcast to get off your butt and do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
odds are there's going to be some nice person that will walk you through the service and be like, yes, I know this is weird. I know it's a lot to take in your first time. Hang out. One of the ladies that was kind of talking to me, she was like, come to the meal after and ask any questions you have.
Yeah, or during the service, if you have any questions, let me know.
And also, I mean, if you're worried about going and don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, just email.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Because...
Or it also makes it a little easier when you're going with other people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Make it a
If I were
thing.
to go by myself, I'd be very anxious.
Yeah.
But it was good being able to go with a group of people.
Because
we're going through this together.
A lot of the pastors and fathers we've talked to seemed very welcoming and just happy to see some new faces and to have other people experience their beliefs and their practice, and we're excited about it.
Yeah.
It's not a scary thing. Everyone starts somewhere, but it's that starting that creates what would make this world a better place.
Yeah. All right. Well.
And we're in the South, so and don't be scared of Orthodox or Catholicism or anything besides Baptist.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't. You're not a heretic for learning about these other denominations either. Okay, you can disagree with something and still understand it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been pretty much it for this one. Next week we'll be attending the final church that we'll be visiting. I know this series has been going on for eons now, so hopefully you've been enjoying it. We're actually attending Michael and David's home church.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah, look out for that one. We'll be interviewing their pastor next week, and then going to the service. You'll hear our thoughts 2 weeks from now, and then we're going to be talking about all of them and kind of compressing our thoughts.
Yeah, how we feel.
Ranking them best to least. No, we probably won't do that. But
we've
done that off the mic. We're not going to put people on blast on mic. We're going to not do that.
Unless we want to make some people mad.
Yeah.
Mad.
But yeah, it's been good. I would say that it's been real.
I'd say it's been fun. I'd say it's been real fun.
Yeah. So
we'll see you guys.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.